have you on this Thursday, and we're so happy to have our next guest in studio. Of course, you know him as the Packers' all-time leading rusher, 4-time Pro Bowler. Ahman Green is here. But you have like a whole new life now that's not about football. It's about esports. We'll get to that in just a moment. But we have like diehard Packer fans who are listening right now. So
100%.
They are so thrilled that you're here. But now we need to put you to work. Like,
correct.
What's going on with the Packers offense right now, Ahman?
Yeah, I had a call I took with with Trey Ringo a couple of days ago, and just watching it as a player, you could tell just a little bit out of sync with each other offensively. You know, Matt LaFleur, the head coach, to Aaron and the offense, to Joe Barry and the defense. And the defense is probably the most consistent. They're just a victim of the offense not scoring points and creating turnovers for themselves, fumbles, interceptions, being sacked and then pushed out of field goal range or pushed out of having to punt the ball.
Yep.
So so they're more a victim of what happens to what doesn't happen with the offense, which is scoring points. Which this point last year they were averaging over 24 points a game, and that's not the point right now. It is really now just focus on. And Aaron said it because I was thinking it in the second series of that game. I was in the stadium in the bowl watching it with friends and family, and I'm like, they just need to go. They have two great running backs that are doing pretty good. They just need to go single back formation or I formation. We call green formation, and basic tight end setup, 5 linemen, 1 tight end, and run the ball downhill, and then I'll set up the play action. Sometimes you got to go back to simplicity to get back where you want to go and get creative with different formations, giving a defense a different look every time.
All right, so I have a trivia question for you, Ahman. When's the last time the Packers ran the ball in a season more than they passed it?
Oh, that was 2003.
2003.
Yeah, I know that one.
And how many yards did you run for that season?
1833.
And it worked, right?
It worked. It worked.
So can that, I don't think they can go that far in the year 2022. How much use can they get out of Jones and Dillon? Because you are paying Aaron Rodgers $50 million a year.
A lot.
You ran 57% of the time that year. 51.7% of the time that year. Give me a reasonable balance here. What would you like to see?
For Aaron and A.J. Dillon in terms of, and then to Aaron Rodgers throwing the ball, I would see something. I would go with, 60-40. That's a fair assessment of saying 60% we're going to pass the ball, but that we got to set up that 40% first with the run game. Start the game, and something we used to do with Mike Sherman and even Coach McCarthy when he took over in 2006 was the fact that our first 15 plays, which I think I've heard of that, is where it's 15 scripted plays, no matter what the defense runs, just to test the waters.
Yep.
And sometimes those first 15 had 3 run plays in a row. And that was, we're establishing the run right away just to see how they're going to fill the box, if they're going to blitz us, if they're going to bring safeties into the box, which is that 10-yard radius from the line of scrimmage, because then that opens up the pass game, and then it gives the defensive back and the wide receivers one-on-one matchups. So they're not able to go back and sit in double coverage and bracketing your best receiver.
Well, I think the next question is, are these wide receivers good enough to beat one-on-one coverage? I mean, how are they going to develop to the point where they can? Where is that receiving core right now?
The receiving core is not quite there yet. With Dobbs, who is doing a lot better, and he was my dark horse. I called in the offseason. Once they drafted him, I looked at his resume from Nevada and was like, he was all conference player of the year. He had all the yards. He broken being a receiver there. So that told me, okay, he has the grind to do what he needs to do to get better. But he's going to be a rookie still. He's going to have to it's going to take time. And then obviously the first pick that was taken, Christian Watson, had all the physicals. Big, fast, father played in the NFL as a defensive back, so he just transferred his DB information to his son. But then he has the hammy during training camp. And as we know, him and I think Romeo is the only guys that played in preseason. So that time was valuable and during training camp, but overall the team didn't because Aaron wasn't throwing them the ball. And I think that was missed out. And I think that's something where I think coaches kind of have to go to the chalkboard and try to rearrange preseason usage, maximizing 3 games instead of 4, but then having your veterans play because you still got to get in rhythm. In preseason basketball, I just watched, the season just started, that LeBron was playing during preseason ball. He was getting his reps in. Stephon Curry, they were all doing it. Why? Because you want to get in rhythm. You want to get in rhythm with your receivers. Running backs want to get rhythm with your offensive line. So you get that time in preseason ball when the games don't count, and some of the coaches, guys might get hurt.
Yeah, right.
But that's football. It could be the first game of the regular season, and you could do a non-contact ACL.
Right.
So you can't worry about being injured in football, but you got to let them play and develop together in the preseason. In the regular season, you don't have these bumps in the road.
Yep.
Ahman Green is with us here in studio. Of course, he's still the Packers' all-time leading rusher with a 4-time Pro Bowler, and now is doing work with esports. He's an esports coach and professor at Wisconsin-based Lakeland University and a media exec and shareholder at ESTV.co. We're going to get to that because that's fascinating in and of itself. Another Packers question for you, though, because we had Sean King on yesterday, the former quarterback, and he was talking about whether Aaron Rodgers was like the right guy to kind of nurture a young receiving core, right? Doesn't want to play in preseason, right? Of course. But sort of like, is his attitude, you guys learn it and then come to me and we'll, or does he kind of wrap his arms around guys because maybe the personality and his leadership style might not be right for this type of rebuild on the offense with the receivers, that is?
Yeah, I always have to say, I think he made his attempt at wrapping his arm around him when he called the meeting. I think it was right before the season started, right after the third preseason or maybe the second preseason game. And that type of call out by your leader on the team, I know as a rookie, I'm all ears. I'm listening. I'm shutting my mouth. I'm not letting my attention span go somewhere else. When I got the guy who's going to throw me the ball, that he's talking. I remember 2003, the year you just brought up, Andrew.
Yeah.
That was the year Sylvester Crooms, who was the running backs coach, Edgar Bennett was also helping out in that room, who was a former NFL running back as well, Super Bowl champion. We started meeting with the offensive line as a group. So all the running backs and fullbacks, yes, we have fullbacks. We're meeting with our center, guards, tackles, even the backup guys, all in a room. And so then that convergence of us watching film together, watching all the run plays, either in practice or a game, then we got to ask questions, or the lineman got to ask questions to us. Ahman, when I do that on a power, when I engage the block, what are you trying to do? And I'm like, I'm basically waiting until you get to the run fit, and as soon as you hit that guy, I'm skirting past you, I might try to influence the linebacker because I could see him trying to either go over top or trying to cheat and stay behind the block. So I'm just trying to use your body as that, and they're like, or sometimes they would say things to me like, Ahman, I'm trying to get the block fast, so then you could just get out of it. I was like, okay, no problem. And so up until that point, I was like, why we didn't do this sooner?
Yeah.
Right.
Because now it opened up my game. I already had football IQ. I watched a lot of film. I broke it down to the minute details where I learned that when we played against the Bears and Brian Urlacher, Lance Briggs, Lance was the heavier of the two, but Brian was faster. So I know if I could get him to bust it to the outside on the outside zone, then I'll have the cutback. But I knew that stuff, but then talking with the offensive lineman, knowing that could help them in certain footwork, in situations, moving around, then it just brought our game. And that's why we had more running yards and attempts in 2003 over passing yards. That was the one for us personally. That was one big reason why.
Talking to former Packers great Ahman Green. Last Packers question from me. So after a loss, Aaron Rodgers has been very philosophical this year, almost laid back. You know him. What are we supposed to make of this? Is he cool with the losses? Is he this grand wizard?
Perloff wants he like more fiery. I think the word was stop being a hippie.
Right. What's this new age Aaron Rodgers? What's he trying to tell us here? Isn't he dying inside that they're not better so far?
Oh, 100%. No, he's a competitor through and through. And I like this because it shows people that there's another way to show how you can be passionate about it without getting fiery.
Sure.
No, trust me, 100%. He is a competitor. He's just not letting see nobody see him sweat.
Sure.
That's what he's doing, and he's keeping his mental about him because he understands, possibly one thing I always think about life after football. How if he becomes a commentator, people are going to like that, him being a more of a reserved type, but understanding he could still explain what he needs to do to get better because he judges himself, his teammates, and the coaching staff. And then he says, hey, we're all doing this together. So we just basically sometimes have to figure this out, assemble it and figure it out together.
But I think fans sometimes want to see you die a little bit after you lose. That's how we are. Sometimes I feel like fans. Right. Maggie's a Bills fan, so she knows a lot about this, losing tough games.
Yep. Good now, though.
Sometimes I think the fans take it harder than the players in a weird way, but maybe it's because the players aren't showing it.
I say for me, I did the same thing. I didn't show it.
Yeah.
I did my best not to show it because for us, it was business. It wasn't personal. the rivalry games that we had from the Bears to the Vikings, the fans took it more serious than us. I mean, they have a song in Wisconsin that talks about the Bears still suck. It's on an album. You could download it. I think it's on iTunes or something. Okay, and I don't know the song, but I'm pretty sure there's a song out there about how bad the Vikings are, or they're not bad, but how bad they want the Vikings to be when they come into Lambeau. So that's how, from the fan point of view, it's serious intent. For us, like some of them guys we know, because some of the guys we potentially went to college with, they were in our conference. I played in Nebraska. I played against guys that were Buffaloes or Jayhawks that played for the Bears, that played for the Vikings or the Lions. I had actually Dominic Raioli. He was the center for the Detroit Lions for years. Yeah. He was a freshman when I was a junior. So it was like, I'm not going to hate you. We're teammates. We're friends. So
his son is the big quarterback going to Ohio State,
exactly.
Right?
So it's like, for us, it's business. And we, I knew Brian Urlacher personally and Lance Briggs. So we were like, good, we'll help each other up off. Hey man, how the wife and kids doing? Oh, doing good. All right, see you later.
I know. I love the chit chat that you guys have during the game. It's like when the first baseman and the runner on first are like talking about the weather and stuff.
Wait, Lance Briggs? I remember Lance Briggs and Brian. Like those guys were doing small talk. He tried to knock your head off. I saw it.
Exactly. So prime example. The year they had to remodel Soldier Field in 2002.
Yeah.
So they had to pay down in Champaign at Illini Stadium, and a big play, and he got me with a good hit. And actually, I got Urlacher with a good hit, and he helps me off the ground. He said, "Dude, you just knocked the snot bubbles out of me." I was like, "Okay." I was like, "I like this guy." I went back to the huddle, play on, So it was just like playing with people, playing with friends.
You brought up Nebraska. Ahman Green is here with us in studio. What do you think? Next coach? Who would you make a call to try to recruit and say, hey, you should come and coach Nebraska?
Well, really, none in mind other than the guy who's there right now, Mickey Joseph, because he's a former player of Nebraska and just a former athlete himself. So, and he's been doing a really good job of getting the team up to play, up to snuff to compete against the teams that we're playing against in the Big Ten. So that's where my call will go right now.
Okay.
I haven't really thought about anywhere else because, for one, I've been coaching esports and doing a lot of this, but I've heard rumors of coaches that, used to coach at or with DCs or OCs at Ohio State and other college programs and other NFL programs. So it's going to be interesting to see who, Trev Alvarez pulls the trigger on come the end of the season. Like I said, my call will go to Mickey staying, keeping it in-house.
You were with Scott Frost, right?
Yes, I was with Scott.
Were you surprised it didn't work out? We all had high expectations.
A little surprised because what I had visited him his few years down in UCF and saw how fantastic of a job he brought that program up. They had the athletes and he brought in the schemes offensively. And it was just, I was like, it's going to be a matter of time he could do this in Lincoln. And he did. He got there, but then, like I said, just a little bit surprised that it didn't work out. And it's just unfortunate. I had friends, I got family that, live in the state still. So, behind the scenes stuff was, finding out that he quite wasn't, doing the things as a coach should do, showing up, hearing the rumors about showing up to practice late and not being focused. And then I'm just like, those are not the actions to keep a job anywhere. Right. Even at a place you were a champion at for a long time.
Yeah, that was really surprising. Ahman Green is here with us in studio. So now he's an esports coach and professor at Wisconsin-based Lakeland University. This is like full-time. You are coaching now esports, obviously like video games, straight up. You said that you can scout an esport athlete just like you can scout a football player, a pitcher, great tennis player. Like what do you have to see in someone that makes them a great esports player?
I see from the gaming, so actual controller in their hand or mouse and keyboard they're controlling is their reflexes. Obviously hand and eye reflexes, especially with mouse and keyboard. You see more of that because of the games like Valorant, so because of the games like League of Legends, and any CSGO is another one. For the shooters and Rocket League too, mouse and keyboard, it's amazing to see what they could do with it. But then also watching how they basically adjust, just like I had to adjust when I'm getting the ball running downhill and it's an outside play, but all of a sudden they're blitzing or everybody support comes up and I got to cut back. I just made an instinctual decision, boom, to go there. And so I'll see that in the player. I say, and then next thing we'll be looking for communication. How they talk to their teammates in the comms. Right. Because obviously, traditionally, I say more recent is a big word in the gaming world is toxicity. And so a lot of players in that realm, because I just had this talk with my roster of players, they would rather fight fire with fire. So if somebody says something rude to them, they're going to fire right back. And I'm like, that's not the way to go. You got to take the higher ground.
Right.
You know, you got to ignore it, mute them, but don't engage, because sometimes if somebody hit the right button by saying a rude statement to you, then you're off focus. You
Right,
know,
like a trash talker, like playing against Gary Payton.
Exactly, playing against a guy in the street ball, and they're talking about your mom, or your dad, or
at least you can mute them in the esports.
Right now you can mute. Yeah, back in the day,
you just got to.
They're in your
It,
face.
yeah.
So I'm saying, just pay attention to that and learn how to basically swipe the page clean, move on, and make sure you're still focused in the game.
Now, Ahman, I have some eligibility left, and I don't know if you noticed the moves. Like, I feel like I'm nowhere near a college athlete in any way, but esports, I missed my opportunity here.
We all did.
I'm built like an esport athlete.
Would you have not have been the Packers' all-time leading rusher?
Yeah, would you have gone to esports?
Because I tried to go to baseball, and Ron Wolf, our GM, he said, "No, stick with football." And I was like, "I think I'm gonna listen to him."
Yeah.
I'm 25 years right now, so I'll
Wait,
listen
you
to
thought
this guy.
you were going to leave the NFL and play baseball?
Back in 2000, actually 2 years before that 03 season, 2001, I not leave. I was going to do Bo Jackson, Dion. I was going to go play half a season football, and wanted to go and play half a season of baseball because I grew up with it. I was good at it, and so Ron Wolf, I had that conversation. It was like walking past. He overheard me say, he's like, baseball. He said, no, you're doing pretty good here. Then I'm like, that guy knows a little bit more than I do. So,
what were you, an infielder, outfielder?
Outfielder.
Yeah.
Okay. So right, left, center. So, yeah.
I remember Nebraska got that kid Bubba Starling, who's now. Do you remember him? He's a player now. He was he was like the top football recruit, but he chose baseball because he didn't want concussions, and he's now in the Royals. I think he was the biggest recruit Nebraska had ever gotten, but didn't play.
Right.
My mom would not have let me play football, but she would have been in on esports. That would have been great all day. I mean, Tecmo Bowl is not a game, but listen.
Oh, it's a game. What are you talking about?
It's not like you can't compete. You're not going to win big prizes.
Yeah, well, not big prizes. There's events in actually Wisconsin. They do it's actually coming up by the new year, usually by New Year's Day or after that weekend. They have a Tecmo Bowl tournament at the Watering Hole in Green Bay, Wisconsin.
I also heard there's another Tecmo Bowl tournament coming up in Omaha, Nebraska. I swear, somebody invited me to come cover it.
Let me know.
That is right in your wheelhouse.
Right.
Listen,
right.
It's not Lincoln, but it's close.
Everyone knows the unstoppable Bo Jackson 3-yard run.
All day.
Yeah, I mean, like you have to
play
take
Tecmo Bowl and didn't know that? You didn't play Tecmo Bowl.
Yeah.
Ahman Green is here with us. Wow. Well, I mean, congrats on finding this other passion.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, it's something after football, we know it can be hard for guys sometimes when you get out of the sport to find like what's next.
Yeah.
And it seems like you found it with esports.
Yeah, it was something that, I knew it was coming at the end of my career, officially done with the Packers in 2009. Then I played in the United Football League, which was a league that didn't last long. But I got to play in my hometown. I played for the Omaha Nighthawks, so that was a great opportunity. And then that folded the next year. And so I knew probably halfway through I knew at the beginning to halfway through my career that, reality is I'm going to be old and football is going to be past me because I'm not that fast no more. And it's just the natural way of things. It's something that my parents told me, mainly my dad, he always talked about, when you do something, especially with watching football and playing sports. Some of the sports are young men's sports. Like football, it's one of those. NBA.
Are we sure?
Being a
Tom
quarterback.
Brady's 45.
That's what I'm saying. Or being a quarterback.
Yeah.
But then basketball, baseball, obviously, you can go and play. I know some baseball players play till they're 50. It was a Julio Franco. I think he was around 50-something when he.
Yeah, Randy Johnson was pretty old. And there's a couple of guys. Nolan Ryan was pretty old.
Hung up the bat and the cleats there. So I knew that in mind. And a lot of players wouldn't do what I did. They wouldn't think about, oh, man, when I'm done playing, I'm going to do this. Because they're worried about, okay, we're playing now. If you think about the end, then it's over. I was thinking about that during the 03 season. Yeah. And I had a pretty good 03 season. 04 season, I was a Pro Bowl. I was like, so it's just the natural way of thinking. I think with that mindset will help athletes transition a lot better out of the game. Because usually when they don't have that mindset, they don't know, they got to figure out in retirement what I'm doing next. Yeah. Instead of already have a predestined idea. Okay, like I want to coach, and potentially if I learn how to, have the good etiquette and be a proper commentator. I've took classes since I retired, so that's where I feel I could do what I'm doing now as a commentator and shoutcaster in esports. So that's where I wanted to go, and I went down those ways to get education, to get coaching in it. I had Andy Goodrich and Mark Watts who helped me in those areas, and so with that in mind, there was no year where I was like going in down that bad path.
Yeah, right.
You know, and I have friends and family who all played in the NFL that have been down that road. And, you know, once they're down that road, it's just, you know, you got to help them out of it. But for me, I was like, I don't want to go down that road at all. So this is where I'm going to set myself up, do something, and find that next. I basically said, I'm going to find that next love because I love football. I love doing that just like my family. I love my family. So I'm going to do everything I can do to be the best next thing I do. And, you know, and it was gaming and then coaching, and now I'm doing both.
Yeah, put them together. Wow. Well, fantastic. Ahman Green, thanks so much for joining us. Of course, check out estv.co. You can find some more information there. And best of luck to you and your team. I don't know, when's the season? I'm sorry.
The seasons
Forgive
are
me.
fall and spring.
Fall and spring.
And
okay.
today is Thursday, so we may have an NBA 2K player playing tonight.
Ooh.
And then tomorrow, Friday, we have Smash Brother players. We have 4 of them. And right now, out of 4 players in 3 weeks of games, they've only lost once.
Wow. All right.
So they're 11-1.
What do you have? Like, what's the team name? Go
Muskies.
Go Muskies.
It's a
Muskies.
Wisconsin fish, and it's a muskie. Yeah, it's called a muskie.
Okay.
Go Muskies.
Okay, go Muskies. We've just adopted an esports team. Ahman, thank you so much. Thank you for watching our video. Please like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to see more videos like this, just hit the bell.
Yeah, ring the bell.
Just hit the bell.